I do it now, I ain't thinking about tomorrow. It's the real thing, now give me. I'm not so sitting here, I'm all in it. I got a good story every time I wake up. I'm in the action, chips on the table. I want the feel good, I need another percentage. I want the win, lucky seven. Every time I walk in. You know? Every time I walk in, I'm the best thing, I'm the best thing. They don't watch it.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for taking the time to join our live today, and thank you to Modern Beauty Supply for hosting us. We absolutely love doing lives with you guys. My name is Zeina El-Sherif. I'm a field education trainer with Wella Professionals, and I'm in Calgary, Alberta. And I am super excited for what we have for you guys today. It is our first part of our 3-part Triple Craft Live, and I'm super stoked to kick it off with Zach Ferguson. Before I let Zach in, I just wanted to let you guys know if you have any questions, you can throw them in the question cards there. And I'll also be watching the chat box as well. So let me add Zach. Hello. Oh, hello.
Oh, hello, hello.
Hi, Zach.
How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
Good, thanks. Hi, everybody. Super excited to be here. I know Zeina gave you a little intro there. So yeah, thank you to Modern, and thank you to everybody taking the time out of their day to come join us. So like Zeina quickly mentioned, my name is Zach Ferguson. I am a field signature artist in the Toronto area. So this is kind of cool and unique that we're doing a little cross-country collaboration. So I'm really excited, and again, glad that everybody can tune in. So what we're going to be doing today is something that really was created by Stephen Moody, our one of our Wella lead educators. And what it is, it's a concept called triple craft. So what we're going to be walking you through in a 3-part series is what triple craft is all about, and really what we bring to a lot of the studios across North America, and as well as so triple craft in essence is the idea of cut, color, and finish. So it's the 3 major elements whenever we're talking about services in the salon, and really what it's about is kind of expanding each one of those services and really creating something that is specific to the needs of the client themselves. So what we're trying to do is get away from maybe a little bit of the, I guess the norm is what you see, the long hair, the typical waves that everybody has on their Instagram feeds, which is great, but we also have to look at, giving clients something else and how we can really focus in on their needs and give them something that's specific to the actual client. So in essence, that's really what Triple Craft is about. And it's melting those 3, I guess, techniques. So again, cut, color, and finish together. So what we're going to do today is part 1. So today I'm going to be walking you through a haircut. And what we're going to do over the course of 3 weeks is we're going to do the haircut today. Next week, Zeina is going to actually be doing the color on the haircut. And the following week after, we're going to have another stylist, another field education trainer, Nichelle, is going to finish the entire service with the styling. So we're going to walk you through a 3-part series of what Triple Craft is essentially about. So because we're only, we only have a certain amount of time today, I'm going to actually start with the haircut, and then I'm going to let Zeina kind of chime in with some information. And again, any questions throughout, Zeina's going to field them, and hopefully we can answer everything that you have. But what we're going to be doing today in the haircut is we're going to be working with a little bit of the idea of a little bit of a longer length haircut, but we really want to create some internal texture. So a little bit more movement, a little bit more of a creative touch to the haircut. Because when we're talking about melting hair color with cutting in a creative kind of way, I think that it's important not that one overpowers the other. So I don't really want to do an extremely creative haircut and then give Zeina something that, really creative color. Sometimes it's too much. So The haircut itself, like I said, it's going to be kept on the longer side, but a lot of texture, and we're going to add an element of the fringe. So a strong, bold fringe. So I'm going to actually get started on that because, again, time is of the essence. So I will quickly just mention what I'm going to do, and then I'll pass the floor to Zeina. So when we're talking about fringes, I think it's really a great introduction to give your clients something new, something different, something that really is specific to them. And a fringe shouldn't be something that we can be afraid of. I think that all clients can wear a fringe. We just have to give them the right one. So today what I'm going to be doing, and I think, Zeina, you can actually pop up that picture if you have it. But I'm going to be doing a very square, bold fringe. So just like the visual here. So this is something that we call a square fringe. So you can see the line. It's very straight. And this would be something that we teach in the cut craft class as well, is how to deliver this kind of technique. So this is one brief little introduction into what we teach in cut craft. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to just be sectioning very horizontal sections. And I'm going to be combing straight down using my comb as my guide, and I'm going to be cutting through the comb for accuracy. Sometimes we cut through our fingers, and our fingers can sometimes have a little bit of a hole, if you will, and cause a little bit of unevenness. So the comb itself, I'm going to be using that. I'm going to be using the larger teeth for a little bit of tension, and I will show you that while I am cutting. So this is going to be the intro to the entire haircut. So I'm going to start with that. So, and I hope, Zeina, can you see here? Can we?
Yep, you're looking good.
Okay, cool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just be taking what we call horizontal sections, so straight across the head shape. And what I don't want to do is take the entire section into one cutting technique, because what will happen is sometimes if you have too much hair, it's very hard to control. So just before I do that, I should mention the section itself. So the width of the section is going to be much like if we look in the visual. I'm taking from the apex, so the highest point of the head, just to the corner of the eye, or the outside of the eye or the eyebrow. So we like to use landmarks on the head, just like the visual there, to really help control with balance, and we understand where we are on the head shape. So I think we can we see here? We're good?
Yep, that's good. That's perfect.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start right in the middle. And sometimes what I'll do is I'll grab the hair for control first. And you can either cut with your comb underneath the hair, or you can cut with it above your hair. Sometimes mannequins are a little bit harder to control. So I'm going to actually cut underneath. So I'm going to come in with my comb, choose my length. I'm going to cut a little bit longer than I want, because we all know what happens with hair as it shrinks, or as it dries, it shrinks. So I'm just going to be cutting a very straight line just right at the eye level, because then when it'll shrink, it'll be just above. What I'm going to do when we're talking about a square fringe, I'm not going to be doing any over direction. If I was to over direct or bring the hair in the middle, what will happen is the corners are going to round, therefore changing the shape. So I want a complete square shape, so I'm going to work my body around the shape.
So Zach, we have a few questions for you here.
Shoot.
Are you cutting wet or dry?
So I am cutting wet right now. Whenever I'm doing any kind of haircut, I like to start with it wet, because then I have a little bit more control. I have more control when the hair is wet. When the hair is dry, sometimes it's a little bit harder to have the right amount of tension. And sometimes it'll slip out of your hair, your fingertips, and so on. So I always like to cut wet first. And then I usually follow any kind of haircut when it's dry to really add in texture, or add little, reduce a little bit of weight where I can, or where I can see it. But again, there's nothing wrong with cutting cutting dry. This is just my personal preference.
Okay, so we have another question for you then.
Shoot.
So, why less tension when cutting a fringe?
Nice question. So think of hair like a spring. If I was to put a lot of tension on the hair itself, what'll happen is that hair will eventually spring up once I've either cut it or once it's dry. So I choose to use a little bit of a weaker tension and a little bit longer length because I know that that's gonna, it's gonna shrink up, and I don't want the worst thing. You tell somebody you're gonna cut it here, and then they leave the salon and it's up here. So that's why I choose to cut with a little bit less tension. Hopefully that answers it. And all I do now is I follow parallel sections. Once I've had my guide, I can now cut at my same guideline. All very, very good questions.
Keep them coming.
Keep them coming. So I think the other thing that's cool when we're talking about triple craft, and especially with the service that we're doing, in a sense that I'm doing the cut, Zeina's doing the color, I think, a lot of salons that we work at, or a lot of salons are departmentalized. So meaning the colorist and the hair cutter need to be on the same page with what we're trying to do. So Zeina and I have had this conversation beforehand. So, Zeina, what are some of the things then as a colorist that you would be asking me, prior to me doing the haircut? Some important things or some important areas that, something that would be important from a colorist's point of view while I'm doing the haircut.
The first question I always ask is, how much hair are you cutting off? And yeah, I always need to know how much hair is coming off, and I always like to know too how short the layers are going to be.
Okay.
Especially with certain coloring techniques, I always like to know like the lengths of areas around the head, like you just said. But I think it's really interesting because, so for those of you that don't know, I lived in the Greater Toronto area for a long time, and now I'm living in Calgary. So seeing the difference in culture and salons out here, because I come from a departmentalized background where I worked with a stylist and we had to communicate to create the end result, which is what Zach and I are doing here. But out here in Calgary, there aren't any salons like that out here. So you're not working with someone to create the end result. You're really just doing it yourself, which is a cool thing too. But what I love about what Zach and I are doing is I love like a collaboration, and I love working together as a team to create an end result. I think there's something really cool about that. And I think you also learn a lot too when you're working with someone else, and you kind of learn how to talk to another stylist and like what they're going to do and how to communicate with them so that you can get on the same page. Because like Maggie says, there's nothing worse than watching your hard work hit the floor.
Yeah, and I think we've all been in that, in that scenario where you say you want to do, that you have one idea as a colorist, and then you see the final product and you're like, oh my gosh, all that work, all that time, all that color wasted, gone, and not really what we expected. So I think it's always important that you have the conversation if you are departmentalized to, with the colorist and vice versa, just to make sure that you're on the same page. So here we go. I've just, again, followed exactly what the visual is on the screen. It was 3 sections. Hopefully you can see that I'm not getting into the comments. But again, very, very square shape, right? And this is really, fringes, again, I think coming out of the COVID era, for those of us getting back in the salon, we're probably going to see a lot of people that have either cut their own fringe or are definitely wanting some sort of change. I know that the clients that I'm doing and the clients that the salons that I've spoken to, a lot of them are saying, yeah, it's been great. A lot of clients have been open to like change. So I think that it's really, really great for our industry to try to, kind of really give the client something that they've maybe wanted to try, and you know, being locked up or being pent up for the X amount of months has really wanted people to say, let's do something new. So a fringe is always a great place to start. So what I'm going to do now, like I mentioned, we want to kind of maintain some of this length, but I want to do so in a way that's kind of filtered and light. So a lot of the texture is going to be at the top, and again, you're going to see all the styling towards the end. So you're not going to see this really as a finished cut just yet. You'll see it when the shell finishes it. But I want to have some sort of airiness and lightness at the top. So to do so, I'm going to have to do it. I'm going to use a technique called layering. So layering is going to reduce the amount of weight that we have in the hair. So it really depends on what shape I want to produce. So if I want an internal removal of weight, I'm going to be doing a concave layer. What I can do is take it out vertically this way and have, you know, cut the inside of the hair out. But what I'm going to do differently this time is I'm going to work on a horizontal, but I'm going to use over direction to really remove that weight and flatten this shape out. So what that means is I'm going to actually be standing completely still in one area, and I'm going to be using the hair at the bottom, my length, kind of as where, you know, a guide as to how much I want to maintain. So my first sections are going to be right at the top of the head, and I'm going to elevate everything to that point. That makes sense?
Yes. There's just a few questions here, Zach.
Fire away.
So we just had a question. I think it's about the fringe. Who should not wear a square shape?
Okay. So this is a question that I think has changed, or an answer that I feel has changed over the years. I think when we were in hair school, or a lot of times when we were taught about what to do and what not to do, one of the main points would be, if somebody has a square face, don't put a square fringe. Or if somebody has a round face, don't put a round haircut. Personally, I think that sometimes those are the most unique looks. When somebody isn't technically, quote unquote, supposed to have it, I think that's what makes it look interesting. So to me, I say a fringe can be worn on anybody, any face shape. It's the person who's wearing it that owns it. So you're going to get a different answer from everybody, but I think nowadays, do what you want. You can have that conversation of what will work, technically. But if somebody's showing you a specific look that they want to try, I think you can rock it. So I'm not one to say, do this, don't do that.
That's a great perspective.
Yeah.
And they love it. Okay, so we have another question here then. Please explain the difference between concave and convex.
Okay. You just give me 1 second here. So concave. So the idea would be a concave haircut. Think about a bowl or a cave, if you will. The inside of it, the interior of it is empty. So if you can see my comb bending, the inside of it is bending, so that, and in here is space. So we want to create space. So that would be a concave. I'm removing that weight. A convex is the opposite. It's a little bit rounder, okay? So if I was to do a convex layer, I would be producing quite a bit of a rounded shape. So I think a lot of times what happens is we do concave or a convex layer, and what will happen is you'll have a round kind of bulbous shape on the top, and then like a filtered bottom. So I want to make sure that I don't have that. I want this area to be sleek, because if we follow the head, if the head shape itself is more or less like a light bulb, so if I follow that, I'm going to have that kind of silhouette. I don't want that. I want to minimize this. So I'm going to shrink it down. So that's a concave. Answer it?
Good answer.
All right, cool. Any other questions?
Right now there's no questions, but everyone's loving your answer about who should not wear a square fringe. Everyone's loving that answer.
Who should be telling anybody what to wear? Nobody.
I agree.
So I'm just going to quickly describe what I'm doing here. So my first section, and this is one of those things where people sometimes go, whoa, that's pretty short, because I'm starting at the top. But again, I'm going to be bringing everything to that point. So if everything's traveling, it's going to eventually get longer. So a lot of times when I do clients something similar to this, the first thing they say is, whoa, that's short. I say, don't worry. Trust the process. So if we're over directing, you know that you're going to maintain length towards the outside. So all I'm doing is I'm standing right in front of my section, and I'm taking horizontal sections, so meaning parallel to the floor, and I'm just over directing everything to the middle. Very, very simple. I think a lot of times we overcomplicate haircuts and colors. And I always think simple is the most impactful, and sometimes it's the easiest way to get to something, I think. So again, I'm just horizontal sections all the way up. And again, these techniques are something that we teach in the cut craft program. And it'll be unique because in the triple craft, you're learning cut craft terminology, techniques, and you're learning all of our color techniques. So again, when Zeina is doing the color placement, you're going to be seeing some of our what we would be teaching in the creative color course. So again, it's how we melt the 2 and 3 together.
Well, the cool thing about the triple craft class is you guys get to do a photo shoot after.
That is the yes. So that is the finale, the final part of the class. Is and it's great. Unfortunately, this year because of COVID, but it's great for anybody who wants to submit an image into the BEAs, because you do really get a strong image, strong color, and professional haircut, professional photography into something that you can use for either your portfolio, your Instagram, or if you wanted to do any kind of competition work. So it is really like a quadruple threat. So again, I'm on my last section. You can see this is the perimeter. So I'm really not taking off that much. You can hardly even see it. It's just like a dusting. So if I was to comb all this down, I've now kept the length, but I've created very, very short internal layers. Okay? So it's a very simple way to create a creative kind of look. And again, when Zeina's doing the color placement, you're really going to see how the 2 melt together. And for the clients, I know you can't really see the bottom, but the clients that want to keep their hair long, I've hardly even touched the perimeter. Okay? So I'm just thinking, for the sake of time, all I would be doing on the other side now is doing the exact same procedure. So, and the sectioning, is just behind the ear. So I've done everything just from the apex to behind the ear, and everything is brought to that one point. Stationary guide. Okay? For the sake of time, I think I'm just going to move on to the back. Is that good?
Awesome.
Cool? Okay.
Nick says he loves the technique.
Okay, good. So, really, I've only done 2 sections right now. The fringe, the right side. Now I only have really 2 left. Below the round of the head and just above the crown area. So those are going to be my last 2 sections. And I'm kind of excited because I want to see what this looks like with the color too.
Me too. I can't. Now that I'm watching you do it, I'm even more excited.
Ooh.
Can't wait.
So, and then what time are we doing that, just so everybody knows, next week?
Yeah, so next week we're going to be doing the color portion, and that's going to be Wednesday at the same time, and on Modern Beauty Supply. And Zach and I will both be here again. Please save this on IGTV. Yes, this will be saved on the Modern Beauty Supply IGTV.
Okay.
And Nick says, back in the day, this technique was called a coupe sauvage.
Coupe sauvage. Good French. Look at that.
If I pronounced that correctly.
Hi, Nick. So what I'm going to do is I just switched sides because I wanted to show you. So I'm going to be working below the occipital bone, or sorry, above the occipital bone, but just below the round of the head and the back. So right here is where a lot of the weight of the haircut sits. I know I've done this in the past, and I do it quite a lot, is I want to alleviate, again, some of this bulk. So I'm going to do a very similar technique, except I won't be elevating to the top of the head. I'm going to be elevating just to behind the crown area. So I'm going to be taking sections right. I'm going to start now in the middle. So I'm taking my first section right from the middle of the head. And again, I'm not too worried about the perimeter because I know I'm going to be saving it and I can just trim it off at the very, very end. Usually, you know, I always say whatever the strongest part of the haircut is, that's where you want to focus most of your attention on. So if I'm looking at a more softer, textured look, I'm not so worried about, you know, starting my perimeter, starting my line. I want to start on the interior because that's where the majority of the work's going to be. So I'm going to start there and not so much worry about the perimeter, which I think for a lot of stylists, the first place that they cut the hair is the perimeter. Right?
Yeah, definitely.
So you'll see now, this is another example of concave. So I'm carving out the inside. So it's going to be lighter. So I've kept the length. I've just reduced the weight. I'm now going to take each section. It's going to be a traveling guide. So I'm not going to over direct. I'm going to travel to right behind the ear. And then that will be a stationary guide. Okay, so I'm going to be taking 3 or 4 sections and I will stop just behind the ear and then I will over direct to that area. Do we have any other questions?
Right now we don't.
Well, that's good.
Nick says, you legend.
You're the legend, mate.
Yeah, we're so lucky to have Zach Ferguson with us. He is a legend.
Stop. Zeina, did you mention anything about, are we having any kind of sort of giveaway? I know we were.
Yes. Yeah, we are. So we are going to do a giveaway at the end of our 3-part series of our Triple Craft Lives. So it's going to be a pretty big giveaway. I can't tell you guys what it is right now, but it's going to be a good one. All you guys got to do to enter the giveaway is this live is going to be posted on Modern Beauty Supply's IGTV. So make sure that you go to the IGTV, leave a comment, let us know you guys watched the live, tag 2 friends, and you guys got to watch the whole Triple Craft series to enter the giveaway. So make sure you go comment and enter when we're done this live. It's going to be a really good giveaway.
Can I put my name in?
I mean, you might be disqualified. You can try.
Okay.
Emily says that you are too humble.
Okay. Well,
It's so true. We're making him blush now, Emily. We're making him blush. We can't keep saying that.
We're just cutting the fabric here, guys. No, you know, we're just having fun. So I'm gonna back it up just a touch so you can see the silhouette. So again, it almost looks like I haven't done anything, but if you see the floor, there's a ton of hair there. So again, when clients come in, how many times have we had that client that, you know, has the long hair and says, I want to change, but I don't want to lose the length. So what do? I mean, the amount of hair here looks like I cut her hair short, but it's all still here. It's all long. It's just giving something new and a different approach to long hair. So again, you can see here the silhouette is kept. I haven't done any of the outline yet. Just the interior now has short kind of layers, okay? So another great technique if somebody has really thick hair and they want to minimize it. So you can use this in its entirety like I'm showing you, or you can use this back part on its own, which again, like I said, I do that quite often just to reduce the amount of weight in the hair. So now lastly, I just have this very, very top section. So again, this depends on what you want to do with it as a stylist. If you want somebody that maintains this length, you can leave this disconnected, so meaning that this is shorter and this is now longer, and you'll have a very kind of long commercial look, which is totally fine. If, however, I want to connect the front to the back to really, again, accentuate that looseness and that loose texture, which is what I'm going to do here, I'll show you how I will do that.
We got a few questions here, Zach.
Fire away.
Okay. Does Zach have any tip on being so cool is one of the questions.
Who wrote that?
Okay, and the next question is, oh, love your hair. I think that's going to be for me, not for you, Zach.
That's yours, yeah. Not me.
And what's the ideal hair texture for this look?
Ooh, nice. Okay. So the cool part that, you know, texture is so in right now. Like everybody wants textured hair, meaning like some sort of wave, like perms are coming back in. Shags are huge right now. So to be honest, you can really do this type of haircut on any texture. And which is great because that's what we want to see. We want to see more texture. We want to get away from the flat iron all the time. We want to get away from, I think too, coming out of COVID, a lot of people are going to realize that they have great texture because, you know, we're not spending so much time doing our hair and maybe looking at what our natural texture can do for us. So really, this haircut or these techniques can be used on any kind of texture, and it's just going to create a kind of unique feel to it. So if it was really curly, it would be a little bit more of a shag kind of feel, which is, again, like I said, right on trend. Okay. So my last quadrant here. So what I'm going to do, if you remember, I cut everything going horizontal section, so I brought everything up here. I'm going to continue taking a vertical section down the middle, and I'm going to elevate it, and now I'm going to connect what I've done to the top. Okay? I'm trying to see what, yeah, this will probably be the best visual. So I'm taking section down the middle. And I will lower her. So now I'm going to just take a section from the front. Okay. So here's my first section. You can see where I've cut previously. I might have to lower her. You can see my previously got cut there. Give me 1 second. It's tough with the split screen now. It cut me in half.
No, you're not used to having a co-host.
It's quite nice though. I like it. Thanks, Z.
You're someone to talk to.
Yeah, I know. Okay, so I'm going to continue now. And again, this also can change. If I want to keep the length in the back a little bit longer, I'm going to create a more of a short to long effect. So meaning I'm going to be cutting diagonally. Or if I want to take off a little bit more, I can square it off. So it really depends on how much texture you want or how much looseness you want in the back. I'm going to continue this triangularly. I'm going to follow what I had in the front. So there's my first. Now this is going to be the guide for the rest of the back, okay? I'm going to just take now section straight down. Let's see here, yeah. So if I were to comb this all the way up, we'll see here that I can connect just a little bit off there. And now the top is now connected to the back. So all I'm going to do is just pivot around to just to the ear and do the exact same technique. So I'm going to be following the head shape. And there's my guide. Whatever falls out, I'm not worried about. I'm pivoting around. Sorry if my back is to you.
No, it's perfect. You can see.
Okay. There's my guide. Like I said, whatever dropped out is fine. I'm not worried about that. So the other thing, I think, does this look like I'm right-handed in the video or left-handed?
It looks like you're left-handed.
Yeah, I was going to say, because sometimes it's reversed. So I'm actually right-handed.
Okay.
Just one call out. It's always easier to cut from shorter to longer. I mean that if you ever find yourself going like this and cutting down, know that you're on the harder side. I won't say the wrong side, but the harder side. It's a lot easier to cut from short to long. What will happen is if you're cutting down like this, you end up bending the hair and it actually gets a little bit longer on the inside. So just for control, it's always easier to cut from short to long. It's a little tip.
It's a good tip.
And
Oh, great tip. People are saying, we just have a comment here that you make things easier and simple.
that's, I like to hear that. Again, I think we overcomplicate things. Life's complicated enough. You know? Work smarter, not harder. And this is the last section. So, now that's essentially the entirety of the haircut. Again, I just for the sake of time, I didn't do the second side, but I would do the exact same idea on the second side. What I find, again, to go back to that first question, you cut everything wet versus dry. I don't like to spend too much time working on it wet. I put in the shape, with a lot of straight lines. I map it out. I know what I want to try to achieve. Then I would dry it, and then I would go in after with texturizing and really adding your own personality to the haircut, because I know I've used this analogy before, but I really like the analogy that right now what I've done is I've structurally built the house. I haven't decorated it. I just structurally designed the house. So if you go down a street, most houses, the bones of the house are all built the same way, but a lot of them are decorated differently. So you want to create a good foundation, but you don't want it to look like your neighbors, right? So how you design it, how you decorate it, how you paint your front door is going to be different than mine. So how you finish it, that's your own seal of your stamp of, whoever the hairstylist is. So what I've done, yes, I've just created the house, and after I'm going to go in and kind of just point cut, texturize, finish it up, and that would be kind of essentially the look. So there's a lot of loose texture in here, and I don't want to give away too much because I know the shell is going to be styling, and I hope that I've left enough hair here for, that was the other thing. I didn't want to cut off too much and leave the shell or Zeina with nothing left. So, once we add a little bit of texture and some styling products and some color, it's going to be a real cool look, and something that, again, giving a client something new, something specific to them by using the cut, color, and you will eventually see the finish. So yeah, I think from my end, in terms of the cutting, I think I'm good. Do you
Well,
have any more questions?
everyone's loving it. Everyone thinks that that was a great analogy, and they can't wait to see the final look. So yeah, that's awesome. Thanks, Zach. So next week, Zach and I will be back, and we'll be doing the second part of our 3-part. Oh, what are you thinking of doing for color? Can we get a hint? You're just gonna have to tune in next week.
Oh, yeah.
You're just gonna have to tune in next week. I can't give any hints. So next week, Zach and I will be back at the same time, and we'll be on Modern Beauty Supply, the same place. And don't forget to enter our giveaway. So this IGTV live is going to be posted on Modern Beauty Supply's IGTV, and you just got to comment on it. Let us know that you watched it, tag 2 friends, and at the end of our 3-part series, we're going to be giving away an amazing prize, and it's going to be really big. So yeah, so make sure you give us a follow. That's Zach's Instagram up there, Zach Ferg. I'm Z Hair Warrior, and make sure you guys are following Wella Canada West, because that's where we're going to post the winner of the giveaway at the end of our 3-part series.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody. I appreciate your time. And again, Zeina, thanks, for being my co-host, or I'm your co-host. I don't know, either way. And I look forward to next week. And I look forward to everybody else tuning in.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Zach. Thank you, Modern Beauty Supply. Thanks, guys. We'll see you guys next week.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.